Hi, Reality Riffing. I got to interview an incredible vegan coach and fitness expert, Coach Kollins, today, and he has some really cool tips for getting and staying and being in shape, not just the body, but the whole body mind system, which of course I love. And Coach Kollins is a great example of some of the myths that we hold around what we need to eat in terms of how to build muscle and keep muscle mass. He's a living example of how that's actually not true, which I find to be very interesting and important, especially when you're thinking about how to have an actually healthy plant-based diet. So we have a really great conversation about that, as well as some of his fitness techniques and tips for staying and getting in a whole nother holistic type of fitness, which of course I think is so important and I'm very interested in, as well as Coach Kollins is a great entrepreneur and he's really built something beautiful. So I look forward to you hearing all of his tips and also being able to check out his amazing fruit workouts that he does. We were going to work out together, but I did a dance class a couple of days ago and was maybe twerking a little bit too much, and now am hobbling around. So just call me Grandma Twerk over here. But I hope you enjoy this great conversation between me and Coach Kollins. So excited to welcome to the show Coach Kollins today. You are an incredible athlete and coach and entrepreneur, and really one of the also the things that I think is impressive about you and important for people to understand is you're also a vegan, and you look good. It's working for you. I like it. Welcome. Thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me, Guru. Thank you so much.
And so explain to me, how did this all kind of happen for you? How did this come about?
Oh man. Well, a little bit about myself first, I guess, because everybody, as soon as I start speaking, everybody can hear that obviously I have an accent, and obviously everybody wants to kind of know where that comes from. And I'm half Russian, half Nigerian, which
Wow.
is a quite a random mix. It's kind of hard to guess. Some people try, and nobody ever guessed where my accent is from.
So super,
My mom
super
is
genes,
Russian.
super genes, Russian and Nigerian.
I, I was to me, it was a blessing.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful for whatever has had to happen in order for my parents to meet and then for them to have me and then for me to be healthy, right? It's a lot of blessings. So I'm definitely grateful for that. And I was born in Russia and I lived there till I was about 15 years old. And then I traveled around the world. And I would say my accent is mostly Russian. But then I spent about 10 years in Thailand. And that's where I really got into with um, I would love to say myself. It's still work in progress, of course, but
Of
I
course.
started understanding life a little bit better. I feel like Buddhist culture is one that I sympathize the most. And I've learned a lot from obviously Thai traditions and Thai people. And about 8 years ago, I moved to Los Angeles and I have became vegan only 5 years ago since living in LA. LA got to me, everybody said,
Yeah, yeah.
which is, but it is incredible how I was able to experience living here and socializing with people who are, on a different journey. And I was able to combine my passion for fitness with being able to have a certain, nutrition habit that I believe in and that makes me feel good.
So talk to me about that. I mean, what is that? I mean, I think it definitely myth busts so much when you see someone who is as in shape as you are and is vegan, because I think there's so many myths around and ideas around protein and what that looks like and how we build muscle. So break some of those myths for us right now.
Wow. Yes, of course. I mean, the biggest question is that how can you get enough protein being vegan? And even though there are some challenges that can be further around getting protein as a vegan, it's quite simple nowadays because we don't have to really hunt. We don't have to really do anything but go to the restaurant, supermarket, or order like a Grubhub. right? So it's quite simple. It's more of an educational aspect that I feel like people are lacking in our upbringing, to understand that we don't have to eat meat products in order to build muscle.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to be an example for that, right? I'm trying to be as and vegan is a very interesting term, right? Because it implies a lot into, it's not just any it's not just about the food and eating. It also refers to obviously how you respect other products that are made from animal products, of course.
Yeah.
And for me, being vegan means truly not having anything, not even honey, of course, because it is a animal derived product. And I would think that I would be missing nutrients in my daily um, meals, but I've done baseline testing recently and it was pretty good. I was very happy because I do not really like follow a meal plan to make sure I eat all certain vitamins and whatnot. I do not take many supplements. I just am more of intuitive eater, right? Whatever sounds good, I would eat, but it's always vegan. So it kind of cancels out a lot of things like pastry and chocolate, like milk chocolate and like candy, because most of those things have some sort of, animal products. So I eat a lot of fruits and nuts and, you know, a lot of plants. And a lot of people think that they need to have protein in order to build muscle. But the true thing that you actually need is the amino acids. And you can get those amino acids from plants, berries, from grains. Beans and rice in a combination together actually give you a complete protein. And that's why a lot of nations, and especially poor nations, eat a lot of beans and rice,
Yeah.
and they're pretty strong.
Yeah. It's my favorite food. Um,
Yeah.
so are you eating a lot of like meat substitute type of things? I mean, what's like, cause a lot of vegans, in my experience I started the first raw and living vegan, food, and lifestyle kind of boutique in New York City in the East Village in 2001. And so I've been around I'm OG with all of this stuff, and I've definitely seen so many vegans be, and vegetarians as well, be such junk food eaters in a certain way, and but especially veganism tends towards like these restaurants that are so much fake meat and so much processed. Like, what's your take on that?
Yeah, this is actually the dark side of being
Yeah,
vegan.
the junk food.
because yeah, because I mean, sugar, it's another big problem with the whole health and diabetes and high blood pressure and heart attack. Which sugar is vegan, right? So all the desserts,
Sugar is
or vegan
vegan.
donuts. Yeah, so it's kind of that's a bad part about it.
Yeah.
But on the other question of the fake meat, that's what usually people call it, like fake chicken, fake
Yeah.
meat, fake
Yeah.
fish or whatnot. um, the idea to begin with, for most vegans, we became vegans not to eat meat, and having something that tastes like meat shouldn't be appealing to us. But the companies are doing such a great job chemically making those products, appeal to our taste buds and to our psychology. So it kind of makes it guilt free, even though you have this burger that kind of tastes like meat. And even though you didn't want meat in the first place, but something about it is just everything clicks. And I did struggle for quite a long time with impossible products.
Yeah.
I have with impossible meats. I actually even had a meeting with their marketing company. It was I'm part of Impossible Squad. They have this team of people who are vegan and non-vegan, but their mission was different. Their mission was to make a product that's appetizing to non-vegetarians and non-vegans to
Right.
try a plant-based option, which was a different approach to it, and which I think was genius.
It's
And it
genius.
exposed more people to plant-based options, even if it's not a full-time thing. Maybe once a week or twice a week or
Yeah.
whatnot, they have more plant-based options, which is great for environment. In the end of the day.
Well,
Yeah.
the I have a friend who says, why are Impossible Burgers so good?" Because they're actually meat, which is not true, but But they're, it's sketchy. I've been a vegetarian for a long, long time. I mean, into my childhood, and those things. I mean, it's a sketch. It's definitely. I don't remember what meat tastes like, but it's like very. I mean, it seems so close,
it,
but maybe because I haven't eaten it in a long
it
time.
is it's scary close.
It's
It's scary
scary.
close that every like other time when I eat something, like honestly today I went to Mendocino Farms and they have this um undeliverable Reuben sandwich, and then you can get it with vegan cheese, and I also get it with a gluten-free bread. So it's
Hmm.
vegan and gluten-free.
Yeah.
Amazing. And every time I eat it, I have to like think about it. Is this really vegan? Because I haven't had a Reuben sandwich in so long, and this looks like it, tastes like it. The sauce is the same. Um, and yeah, and I'm always scared of one day ordering a vegan dish and they're bringing in not a vegan dish, and I'm eating it and I'm like doubting it, and then I should always trust trust yourself,
Yeah.
and maybe double check or whatnot.
Well, that's how close. I mean, that's where we are with all of this. Although I have some, those those people on Facebook that like to like to fight about everything. That's why they go onto Facebook. There's one of these people who was going off about how vegans don't understand that like soybeans and these other kind of crops are actually ruining the environment and the rainforest, and um so I mean, obviously, there's a lot of different opinions about this particular. It's a heated subject.
It is yeah, it is definitely a interesting topic always.
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
and there's an interesting joke that I still laugh about, but people always say, like, how do you know who is the vegan in the room? And then people say, oh, he's gonna tell you.
Yeah.
And I'll be the first one to say this joke so everybody knows. Okay.
Exactly. I mean, they repurpose that joke for also Kundalini yogis and CrossFitters. A vegan, a CrossFitter, and a Kundalini yogi walked into a bar. How do I know? They told me. Um,
Yeah.
it's true.
Yeah, it's
We're into our thing here. So talk to me about Built by God TV. I mean, it's a really cool name. Obviously for people who maybe don't think about God as something that they relate with. I'm just curious what it means to you.
yes. Well, there is, I guess, two parts to the story, of course, like always. And of course, my upbringing has something to do with this. And so I was raised in different cultures. Being born in one country, I was baptized when I was young without obviously knowing what was happening, right? And then my mother ended up getting married to my stepfather, who was of a Muslim religion, which
Hmm.
was interesting,
Hmm.
right? And then I ended up moving to Thailand, which was a Buddhist country, and intaking it all, and observing. I decided that I'm a spiritual person.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
believe that there is obviously higher power, and I try to connect to that higher source. But and there's different ways to worship and different ways to do it, and obviously it is good to worship, period, whoever you believe into. And one of the times I was in church here in downtown in LA, and it's LA, downtown church. It's cool. A lot of awesome people. There's DJ.
Hmm. Hmm.
Serious.
Yeah, it's LA.
And it's right. And there are like those flashing images on the screen about before the pastor is about to come out, and it says "Built by God." And I was like, oh my God, like it was about maybe 7 years ago, probably.
Yeah.
Um, Took out my phone, went on Instagram. It was available, so that became my Instagram handle for the
Wow.
longest time. And
Wow.
then I built fitness brand around it. And then after being lucky enough to work with a lot of different influential people, I would say,
Yeah.
in different fitness and sport industries, I was able to come up with a program that I could make affordable to everyone to access through a Build by God TV app, which is available on iPhone or Android. And people can do the same workouts that, I
Amazing.
mean, I don't want to drop any names, but whoever I worked with, and they paid a lot of money for this, people can do the same workout from their phone, and it's usually we'll give a 30-day free trial so people can see it for themselves.
Wow. That's very
you
nice of
know.
you. Can you name drop? I mean, not that I don't really care, but I think it's also good for people to know. Like, is there anybody who you're allowed to tell us that you work with or have worked with?
Oh yeah, yeah. To be honest with you, I feel like I'm allowed to talk about most of my clients or people who are working with organizations because their relationship was always good and beautiful, and it was
Yeah.
always transparent. I feel like a couple of my favorite people that I still work with, used to work with, still doing projects with are Mina Masood, who is a vegan as well. He's the
Yeah.
Aladdin. He just played in the movie with Will Smith and another series on Hulu.
Yeah.
And his another movie just came out, so he's doing very well.
He's
A
looking
great
good.
guy.
He's looking good.
He's looking good. Yep, yep, yep. He's working hard. He's the one who told me about the Reuben sandwich in the Sino Farms. So it's
He's
interesting
got
to
your back.
it's interesting to be able to connect with celebrities in a way of being, let's say, a vegan or having something in common. And then obviously one of my partners and bosses in a bigger picture is Floyd Mayweather, who is opening up franchise of gyms across, the world. And I've been lucky to be involved in this project from very early beginning. And now pretty much we're traveling the US and opening up gyms from East Coast to West Coast. And eventually we're planning to go overseas.
Amazing. What are the gyms called?
Mayweather Boxing and Fitness.
That's what I
There's
thought.
one.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I live right here in Los Angeles. There's one downstairs of my building, and we're actually moving with my girlfriend to Hollywood because the next one is going to be opening up on Hollywood on Highland, and we're going to be living right there in the middle of the craziness. But that's going to be the second location in Los Angeles. There's a couple in Tampa. There's one in Torrance, New York City. It is awesome. We've been
Congratulations.
doing it for a couple of years now. Yeah, thank you.
And do you perform a certain role for the company, or are you one of the, like, how do you, you just train for them, or?
Um, I've honestly done a lot of things in the company, from building a first franchise to training classes to selling franchises, going to franchise expos. There was a core group of people who started together, and we're
Yeah.
still with the company. Now my main job is to support the franchisees. So right now I'm helping somebody. I'm actually helping my neighbor who's opening up a location in
In
Hollywood and
Hollywood.
Highland. It's
Yeah.
he used to be our. A lot of what happens quite often is that people would go to the gym and they would be working out and they would want to own one of their own because it impacted their life. And they're
Yeah.
like, oh, wow, I want to share this with the world. And the name is great. So, like, why not?
Do it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fun.
Well,
It's fun.
I personally, I mean, I think being an entrepreneur, one of the things that's interesting about being a person who is interested in health and wellness and with the wellness industry and all this stuff. I mean, you're obviously a creative person, but not every person knows how to also kind of make that into being a business person and how to really, how to execute that part of the brain. It's like left right brain stuff, in my opinion. It's bicameral, which I think
Mhm.
are working out and doing things that move our mind body obviously help to do that. But what kind of sparked your entrepreneurial spirit? Has it always been there, or did something happen?
I think it's always been there. I feel like my stepfather is still an entrepreneur and always will be. He likes starting businesses,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like that's where I learned it as I was growing up. And then, of course, coming to the US was a huge change, and being able to become whoever you want to become or be whatever you want to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's I definitely understand the sense of that. Being born in USSR, in communist country,
Yeah.
going to a very Buddhist country to come into the land of freedom and a land of the free, and I totally see why it is called what it is called.
I mean, there is something. I travel all around the world, and I have to say that there is something very unique about the entrepreneurial spirit that is alive here in America. I think it is unique. I mean, I have a business in Spain, I have a business in Europe, and it's just the whole way that the Spanish people do business is very different than Americans. They think I'm the crazy, type A lady. Um, they want to take the siesta, and I'm like, I need this today. They're like, what?
Well,
But so it's an interest. I do think there's something very unique about America, and it gives you a little perspective to have some comparison. Were you, I can't tell how old you are because you're like ageless. Were you born in communist USSR?
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm 33 right now, so I was born year 87, and I was 40 years before the USSR broke apart. So I kind of remember when there was like one loaf of bread on shelf or whatnot.
Yeah.
I mean, my grandmother used to stand in lines, and then I remember when the tanks were going through the cities, and everybody was scared,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then it got better.
Yeah. I mean, people don't I was just, I went to Russia, my first tour in Russia, and
Oh
taught
wow.
in Russia in November. It was really amazing. And I think, with a lot of people kind of in our like millennial, elder millennial age group, and just so they were born into the USSR and then kind of lived their early years in what was the fall of the USSR. And I do think it's just, I don't think for a lot of Western, kind of neurology, they do not understand what that actually looked like.
Yeah, it was eye-opening when the union broke down and we were able to have access to other products which we'd never seen before, like chewing gum of different sorts. It was like,
Right.
oh wow, what is this? This is amazing. Like, there's more of this somewhere else. Let's go there.
Yeah.
And then everybody tries to come to the US, and it's definitely hard to get here.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard to get to Russia now as well. I mean,
Oh,
that's hardcore. It was
you know.
it was a hardcore border to cross, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I haven't. I haven't been back to Russia in many many years, as my family actually lives in Thailand. So every time I go home, I travel to Thailand to see my mom, my
Not bad.
sister, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a good.
Power
I was like, oh,
moves.
I gotta go home to see my family.
Yeah. Yeah. Thailand is a good place for veganism too, because there's so much good fruit there. Oh my God.
Oh my god.
So into
And
it.
yeah, and also honestly, in Thai restaurants, and even here in LA, if it's an authentic Thai restaurant, and especially if you can speak Thai, you can order anything made vegan for you. And to be honest with you, I was super vegan coming from LA, all like, oh my God, I'm going back to Thailand. I'm vegan the first time.
Yeah.
And I'm ordering a vegan dish, and I tell them, I want blah, 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 J. And J means vegan. And they're like, do you want onion and garlic in it? I was like, yeah, sure. They're like, are you sure? Because that's not really vegan. I'm like, onion and garlic? Like, I didn't even understand the concept of onion and garlic not being 100% vegan in terms of messing with your, because they're so strong,
Yeah.
right? So they can mess with your senses.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, wow, okay, this is the next level. Sorry, I'm just plant-based,
Yeah.
almost
Yeah.
like.
Yeah, there's all these meditation there. I mean, my lineage isn't like this. We're into the onion and the garlic as a stimulant of the system, but no, there's a lot of meditation systems and I think probably some sects of Buddhism that they don't even stimulate the system with onion and garlic.
Aromatics, I think they're
Yeah.
called.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Wow.
so let's talk a little bit about your theory or your theories around the mind body system and how to work it out, and what you think really what you've seen works well, and kind of your formula. Can you break it down for me? I mean, I'm sure it's different for every person, but I come and I want to get in better shape, and I want to, I want to be built. I want to remember that I'm built by God. What does that look like?
Well, there is definitely three big components to our system. The first one, and the one that people think about the most, is the fitness component to it, right? As you think about, oh, I want to get in shape, so I need to start working out, right? And there is different varieties of fitness workouts we're able to do. We do have them on the app, as well as we do them through Zoom calls, which is awesome. And I'll talk about that more in a second, because with this whole obvious situation nowadays, things have changed and they
Yeah.
might never be the same again.
Yeah.
Um, but fitness is one part. Then obviously the second part, which everyone knows is the biggest part of them all when it comes to, and most people want to do some sort of weight loss or toning type of,
Mhm.
program, is nutrition, right? And That's a very interesting topic because with me eating a certain way, there's only it's hard for me to give advice to somebody else who is not eating the same way as I am because I'm only able to preach what I do, right? So I cannot say, hey, eat beef and chicken and eggs when I don't for
Yeah.
certain reasons, and they're
Yep.
very obvious to me, and I strongly believe in them. So I usually outsource that part. Other professionals who are obviously working with different diets, which is very important, right? Because still everybody needs to eat according to their body type, their blood type, their habits. You don't want to just shock their bodies, and because it's a hard process. If everybody will go vegan right away, that'll be amazing, but that's usually going to be a big, you know, bounce back, a couple of weeks later.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but but given that, we always advise more plant-based nutrition because eating more veggies helps. People are always, when they think of changing their nutrition, they think of dieting and they think of like starving and not be and being always hungry, which shouldn't be the case. And if you eat enough, green veggies like kale, cucumbers, lettuce, really like all the greens. They are almost all calorie free, or there's very minimum calories in those foods, so you
Yeah.
can have unlimited amounts of those. So if you're hungry, eat more, cucumbers with kale and lime. Make yourself a salad. That's like, there's nothing but nutrients there
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
Um, so that's a big part of it, and we're trying to be understanding with people's situations, and everybody does, and everyone has different access to different types of supermarkets and restaurants and
Yeah.
cooking at home or not cooking at home. It's a whole another battle. But what I think works the best and the most important part, our third component to our program, is the community and the accountability that brings with it. And especially now with everybody being stuck at home and us doing more and more classes through actual Zoom calls versus doing classes in person and doing classes through the app, we're able to have a two-way conversation with people, right? Because they're able to see me, I'm able to see them. But now the classes have grown and now we have, let's say, 30, 40 people in the class, and they're also all able to see each other. And what starts happening is that people who live in different states, in different countries, but they're actually related to each other, instead of talking to each other once a month, they see each other like 3, 4 times a week in those classes,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
brings families closer. It became so cool that I have my whole family when I teach class here at 6 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. They're doing class in Thailand at like 8 in the morning and 9:30 in the morning.
So
It's like,
cute.
yeah, it is like, it's at first, whenever there's a change, it seems difficult and it's nobody likes to change, right? Change is uncomfortable,
Yeah.
but change is something that is constant and it's always happening. And there is it's only uncomfortable when we try to resist it. If we try to roll with punches, as we say in boxing, and go with the flow, right? And try to, you know, don't let the world change you, but at the same time, it's very hard to change the world, so you have to find that middle ground where you can um, be most efficient at the present time, with the
Yeah.
tools that you have,
Yeah.
and not really think of like, oh, what if this wouldn't happen, or why this happened to me, you know,
Yeah.
this is
It's
this is an
agility.
opportunity for all of us. Yep, yep.
It
This
is.
is an
It is.
interesting opportunity for all of us to connect during the distancing time.
So many people feel more connected than they ever have. And I agree with you. I think in terms of boutique fitness, and I have 4 yoga studios, things are going to be different. I've always had, since almost the beginning, I've always had a digital platform called Rama TV. Um, and so we were very prepared for this moment, and we, have a very global audience. But I think that people feel more connected than they ever have. And I think there's going to be a swing in both directions. We'll see. You're in the fitness. You have fitness
Mm.
clubs, and so it'll be you'll. I think we'll see a swing back into the in real life thing as well. But I agree with you. I think that this is going to do. Nothing's going to be the same.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people had realizations this during this time. A lot of people had time to sit down and think.
Yeah, we've had a little contemplation time, haven't we? So let me ask you. Okay, so in my experience as veganism, I'm a vegetarian. I mean, just naturally, you're eating more carbohydrates because those are in that's kind of the more of what's on the table, as it were. What's your so when you're somebody comes to you, they're trying to lose some weight, and maybe they are vegetarian or vegan, or even if they're not, are you having them look at their macros? Do you think it's important? Like, what's your take on this? Because I think as a vegan, this is a very different kind of scene in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and it is very different, and it's very, very hard to really make people understand that comparing macros is not always the same, because it's like comparing apples to oranges sometimes.
Yeah.
And let's say that I actually spoke to a doctor earlier today, and she explained to me that there's such term called protein body protein synthesis, and it pretty much tells you how much protein you observe from different sources. And you'd observe certain amount of protein from eggs, let's say, and that's why actually I observe a lot of protein from eggs. That's why they're so high up, as a like etalon to proteins. Like a gold protein standard is like an egg, and it's always been like that in bodybuilding, because you're able to observe a lot of the protein that is in those 7 grams that are in the egg, versus trying to observe protein from soy or quinoa. There is already less protein in quinoa, plus out of the protein that there is in quinoa, there is some, and every protein is not the same. That's also something that's very, very, very important to understand. Sadly, when people come to me and they would like to lose weight and they're like, oh my God, I'm going to become vegan, I often say that most likely you're going to put on the weight at first before you're going to really, really learn your body and how to eat as a vegan or vegetarian, because it's educational curve for everybody, because everyone is different. And you have to monitor every couple of weeks, check in with yourself and with your body, see how your body feels. Obviously, see how your body changes, see how the weight changes. But most people who turn into vegetarianism or veganism usually don't do it exactly the right way,
Yeah.
and they start eating more and more carbs, and they see this thing of them putting on the weight, then they're trying to starve themselves maybe for a minute just to try to drop that weight. It's definitely a sensitive process, and I would say personally, when I became vegan, it was a step-by-step process, and I first became a vegetarian, and I enjoyed that for quite a little bit, and then one day my body said, I don't want to eat eggs anymore. It's like I just was eating a sandwich with eggs, and it was like, no, I don't want eggs anymore. It was I don't know what happened,
Yeah.
and then I stopped eating eggs.
Yeah.
It wasn't forced at all, and everybody has different body type, different blood type, and that's very important in
Yes.
terms of nutrition for people. And being vegan really works for me, and I always tell people, hey, it has to work for you. Maybe because of my ancestors. I feel like people who come from Africa, I feel like it's more in their DNA to be eating more crops and
Yes.
grains,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Versus like Europeans, which are maybe more used to having dairy. So I feel like it's all okay. There's no such thing as good and bad in the end of the day, right? Everybody is different. So as long as people are staying healthy and staying conscious of where their food comes from, I feel like that's the most important part.
And how about in terms of like best case scenario, if people want to come and get a new level of fitness, like how much do you um require or want people to work out? Like how long and how many times a week?
Well, so yeah, once again, we want to get people to be as active as possible. We would love people to be active 6 days a week, 7 days a week sometimes. We do understand that rest is necessary, but sometimes we are forced to rest, like in these times right now, for example. So burning calories, I feel like in the end of the day, macros are different, right? It's not like if you would eat a pizza, for example, or you'd eat a salad, and you might get, 10 grams of carbs and 10 grams of carbs. Those are different kinds of carbs, because you're going to get vitamins with some of them, and you're going to get just insulin spike with the other, obviously with the pizza. Um, and what's very important is to understand that you have to have a proper calorie balance. It's either negative calorie balance or surplus or positive calorie balance. If you're trying to put on the muscle mass or any type of mass, you need to eat more calories so your body recovers and puts on the mass, then you burn. and vice versa. If people are trying to lose weight, as long as their system is not toxic and they drink enough water, if they're gonna stay in calorie deficit for at least a few weeks, slowly but surely their body is gonna start losing weight. And to put yourself into negative calorie balance, you'd want to be as active as you can,
Right.
obviously, because it's not a fair game. We can drink one Starbucks drink and it's like 500 calories.
Yeah.
And if you want to burn that off, you have to be running on a treadmill for an hour, so you have to always be smart about your intake versus, the amount of calories burned.
And do you think it's more important to like what's your take on cardio? Because I think there's a lot of different ideas about cardio, and especially, I mean, I think with women and hormones and different chronologies, and men too. I think there's a lot of factors that are beyond just calories and macros, and how high stress their lives are. Like, how do you
Hmm.
take this into account?
Well, cardio is definitely will be one of aspects of training. I would say probably one of the most important things for people. If I would have to rank it, would be mobility and flexibility. That's where yoga comes in.
Hmm.
Like people have to be able to move pain free. They need to be able to move through full range of motion before they're gonna start lifting weights and putting maybe more muscle on top of dysfunction, which is obviously not gonna make things any better in the long run.
Right.
Um, and then obviously cardio is a whole another aspect of it because it works on a different system. When you do cardio, obviously it works on cardiovascular system as well as your respiratory system, which right now is obviously super important to make sure you have been working on your cardio and strengthening your
Your
lungs.
lungs.
And
Yeah.
yeah, because that could help in case of people getting even the regular cold,
Yeah.
not even talking about obviously the COVID virus.
Yeah.
Um, but the problem with cardio, there is obviously two sides to every story, right? And a lot of people do maybe too much cardio, too much of repetitive cardio. They're damaging their knees, their hips. If they run too much, they're wearing the wrong running shoes. They have to get,
Hmm.
knee replacements because I do deal with a lot of different ages. And it's sad to see that somebody was running like a dedicated runner, the healthiest person in the world, running marathons, and then 20 years later, they have to replace their hips.
Yeah.
It's just like, wow, you're like the Superman, but now you can't walk. So it's balance is the key. And I feel like if you have balance between mobility and stability, obviously with some resistance training to build muscle mass, retain muscle mass, because that's going to speed up your metabolic rate, right? Or at least, keep your BMR up and add cardio to burn the excess of calories. That would be like a perfect balance in that triangle. But if you neglect one of those three things, in the long run, of course, it's gonna backpedal on you.
And is your perfect cardio more like this kind of functional cardio like that we do? I mean, I used to train in very old school boxing gym in Brooklyn, and that was some of the hardest cardio I've ever done. Way harder than running, and just it's just really deep. Like I found it to be really amazing, but quite difficult. It was what do you suggest in that?
So there is definitely two types of cardio. One is high intensity interval training when you stop and go versus steady state cardio, like you're going hiking, for example, and you're
Hmm.
climbing up, a hill or a mountain. Both are good for different reasons.
Hmm.
I think nowadays we need to stay entertained. The attention span is so short. So
Yeah.
people like the shorter intervals. HIIT training is very, very popular. And what I was able, and that's why honestly, the boxing is picking back up and being very, very popular as a not a professional's workout. So at stay-at-home moms are boxing left and right and taking all these classes in different places because it keeps people engaged, right? As
Hmm.
you're boxing, you're punching the bag. It gives you that release of some probably different type of hormones than running does, even
Yeah.
though obviously people love running and endorphins are, going through your head and you feel great. But when you box, there is something in us like animalistic, even though, right, I'm a vegan, this and that, but like
Hmm.
hitting the bag and like
Hmm.
working with my trainer on my technique and punching something um, brings out, some instincts in me, like caveman instincts, you could say, or whatnot.
Hmm.
And it's, I think, separating ourselves from those instincts and trying to forget where we come from is very dangerous,
Yeah.
especially in the world nowadays. So
Yeah.
it's good to listen to yourself and see if your body likes that and there is some sort of release in that. Maybe you should look into it more and see how you can, learn yourself and learn your body from doing some sort of practice, either it's boxing, other kind of martial arts, but cardio in a way, high intensity interval training probably would take you less time to burn the same amount of calories as you would by hiking. Hiking is safer, on your knees, on your joints, but boxing, I would say, would be probably my ideal choice.
And do you
Hmm.
train? Are you training for yourself, your own personal practice? Like, are you training to competitively? Uh,
Not anymore.
okay.
I do train on daily basis, couple of times a day. You can see this is my living room. Obviously, I have
Yeah.
a punching bag right here. Um, I do train a couple of times a day just because it is just if you have to work on yourself a couple of times. I mean, every day, and you have to meditate, right? Work on your mind. You have to work on your body. For me, with having a monkey brain, it is sometimes easier to zone out doing something active, and get into that state that I'm not thinking of what I'm doing at the moment.
Hmm.
And I found that my favorite drill I do every morning is I throw 1,000 punches on that bag,
Hmm.
and I have an app that counts punches, so I don't
Cool.
even have to think how many I'm throwing. I'm just going and I'm throwing different punches and I'm in the zone. There's maybe music in the background. You don't even know.
Yeah.
And I do that every day and it takes about 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And that's my like way to wake up my body and get ready for, whatever has to come next. I'm ready. I'm ready.
That's so cool. I love it. So when somebody works out with you, like on these Zoom classes or on the app, what do they need? Do they need a punching bag, or what do they need to like come prepared with?
Well, the coolest thing about those things, and honestly, I don't have tons of experience doing Zoom classes. I've just started about a month and a half ago
Yeah.
since all this, like we have hundreds of gyms all over the
Yeah.
nation and
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
everybody's just stuck at home.
Yeah.
But we were able to figure out a great way to train everybody. So literally, it's whatever you have. If you have no watermelons, though, okay, that watermelon was that one time,
Nothing
okay,
that breaks. Yeah.
that was that was a
That
bad
didn't work.
that was
That
a bad
didn't work.
idea. That was a bad idea. But usually people use cans if they have cans of beans, if they have water jugs, water bottles. A lot of people, I'm surprised, a lot of people, especially on my classes, because all are somewhat active. They used to belong to some sort of
Hmm.
fitness club
Hmm.
before. They have some type of weights at home.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you have nothing at all, every exercise can be modified because every exercise can be done body weight.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, sometimes it's even more challenging to do a body weight version of exercise than just doing a
I hear
weighted
you.
version of
Yeah.
exercise.
Yeah.
Oh my god! And what we're able to do, because it's me and my girlfriend Natalie, we are in the studio together in one frame, so we're
Yeah.
doing two versions, right? So she would do the harder version usually. I usually make her do the harder version.
That's
I have to be
hilarious.
honest, because I have to coach the class, and I'm doing the easier version, the modified version,
Yeah.
because right now before there was not as much variety between the people. Oh, sorry, but now there is so many different people and everybody has different equipment. We have to be able to serve everybody,
Yeah.
especially yeah. And right now we're doing classes for free, so we're just doing this so people are moving along with us. People are not going crazy at home because it's difficult for a lot of us who
It
used to work
is.
out and go running outside and go to the gym, yoga
Yeah.
studio twice a day. It's like wow.
Well, that's really,
Yeah.
really sweet of you guys. So, how can people sign up for these classes and how can people find you?
It's super simple. We have our app, which is Built by God TV. It can be downloaded through Apple Store or the Play Store for Android.
Cool.
Or the easiest way to go is obviously the website, builtbygod.tv. And all people have to do is apply for 30-day free trial. And then they're going to get email from us with all the Zoom links and all the videos and how to join the classes. And the cool thing about it, we're doing classes at different time zones. As I said, we have like
Yeah.
classes that happen in India, Brazil, Paris, London, Los Angeles. It makes it look so much cooler. It's just like, oh wow, it feels like Built by God TV is all of a sudden everywhere.
It's
You know, not
global.
just like Los Angeles, Beverly Hills,
Yeah.
you know, West Hollywood area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. It's so good to talk with you, and I'm really impressed by your entrepreneurialism, and also just your heart, because I think it's really important when we're working the mind body, that there's a resonance of heart, because that really is what changes things, in my opinion. So
100%. Thank you so much for kind
yeah.
words.
And
Yes.
mention also here Instagram. How do people find you on social?
Yeah, very simple. On Instagram, my personal social is at Built by God, and the company social is at Built by God TV.
Great. Wonderful.
Yeah,
Well, so nice to connect with you. And you're going to see me. I'm going to come work out with you guys. I'm excited. Once
I
once I
can't
s-
wait.
once I stop hobbling, I'm going to join a
Well,
class.
amazing. We would love to have you. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for having me. This
Thank
was
you.
amazing. Such a great experience.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Reality Riffing. These are conversations that I think are important with people who are doing great things in the world about subject matters that need to be discussed. If you enjoyed the content, the conversation, please feel free to share with your people, share with your friends and family, rate the podcast below, and also subscribe.